What's up guys, my name's Tom and welcome back to the FPL Centre. Today we're going to try something slightly different in terms of the format for this game week preview, where I'm going to take a bit more of an in-depth look at a few of the key games on the weekend that have the most fantasy relevance. Let me know in the comments if you like the approach better than the previous videos, or if you think I should stick to focusing on individual players. The main injury news of the week is that Wilfried Zaha seems to be fit for Palace's trip to Huddersfield following 2 weeks of recovery over the international break, while Theo Walcott looks as though he's going to miss out on Everton's game against West Ham. Now let's get stuck into it and take a look at the key fixtures coming up in Game Week 5. Saturday's 12:30 kickoff is the headline match of the weekend, with 5th place Spurs hosting league leaders Liverpool at Wembley. Both teams come into the game with some impressive attacking stats so far this season. Liverpool have recorded the second most shots in the box over the first 4 game weeks and have also created the 4th most big chances. Spurs are no slouches either when it comes to the attacking side of the game, having recorded the 3rd most shots in the box and created the 2nd most big chances. The difference between the two sides may lie in their defensive solidity. Whereas Liverpool have conceded the fewest shots in the box in the league so far, as well as the fewest big chances, Spurs are pretty middle of the pack when it comes to the defensive stats. Pochettino's men have allowed 34 shots from inside the area. That's more than double the number Liverpool have given up already. Interestingly, the majority of crosses Spurs have conceded this season have been from the left-hand side. Potentially this is good news for Andrew Robertson owners if he can overlap and produce a few decent balls into the box. This could also play into Mohamed Salah's hands, or preferably his feet, since he has a tendency to arrive in the box from the right-hand side of the area, positioning himself well to get on the end of Robertson's deliveries. Jamie Vardy returns for Leicester this week, giving them a boost up front as they travel to Bournemouth, who will be looking to continue their impressive start to the season. The Leicester striker comes up a surprisingly sturdy Bournemouth defence that has only given up 2 big chances over the first 4 game weeks. That's the joint best in the league alongside Liverpool. The Foxes have also looked good defensively against some tough opposition and will be hoping to keep the hosts quiet. Their task might be a little bit easier if Bournemouth are forced to go without Ryan Fraser, who picked up a knock over the international break and was not pictured during training sessions earlier in the week. Junior Stanislas was present during training and looks to be closer to a full recovery following his serious knee injury back in April. It may be worth noting that these teams have met 6 times in the Premier League since 2015, with 5 of the games being draws. Neither team has ever been able to score more than 1 goal, with all the games finishing 0-0, 1-0 or 1-1. Combine that with the defensive prowess we've seen from these sides so far this season, and this game may not produce as many goals as many fantasy managers may be hoping for. One of the best defences in the league comes up against one of the worst attacks at Stamford Bridge on Saturday. Chelsea rank highest for the most touches in the final third this season, also enjoying nearly 80% of their total possession in the opposition half. I know that Neil Warnock has said on record that Cardiff don't want to simply park a bus on the weekend, but to be honest they may not have a choice if Chelsea continue to play such a dominating possession-based game. Jonathan Moss is in charge here, and he officiated Chelsea 5 times last season. They scored 15 goals in those games, including 3 games where they scored 4 goals. Chelsea certainly have the right matchup on paper, but we'll have to wait and see if they can take full advantage. Following the international break, Willian may be the one rotated this week as Pedro impressed last time from the bench. Add in the fact that Willian's going to have to readjust after a long-haul flight back to London from the US, whereas Pedro is completely fresh after the break, and all signs point towards the Spaniards starting. As you might imagine, the reigning champions come into this one as the best team in multiple attacking categories. They've had more shots on goal than any other team, more shots in the box than any other team, and they're creating a chance every 4.2 minutes, which is, you guessed it, more often than any other team in the league so far this season. They are just as dominant defensively as well, having allowed the lowest number of shots on goal, the 2nd fewest shots in the box, and the 3rd fewest number of big chances. So, good luck Fulham, I guess. In all seriousness, it's not good news for Fulham fans as their defensive stats don't show much to feel positive about here. Worst in the league for conceding shots in the box, joint worst in the league for conceding big chances, everything points to City being able to rip the Fulham defence apart at will. The one thing Fulham can do though is threaten on the break with the likes of Schürrle, Vieto and Mitrovic all providing some vital quality in attack. The ref for this one is Stuart Atwell, whose match history seems to suggest that he runs a pretty tight ship, keeping the game from turning into too much of a thrashing. The last big score in a match refereed by Atwell was Liverpool 4, West Ham 1 in February of last season, and before that you have to go all the way back to Crystal Palace 5, Newcastle 1 in 2015 to find a heavily one-sided game officiated by Atwell. A number of games have involved plenty of goals though, with numerous 2-2s, 3-2s, those kinds of scorelines, but you rarely see a one-sided cricket score under his watch. So it's not all bad news, since there should be goals in this one, but those of us hoping for a big Man City win with an Aguero double hat-trick might just have to wait for another day. Two of the worst defences in the league meet as Newcastle host Arsenal. Both teams are among the worst in the league for defensive errors committed and total shots conceded. This promises for quite an entertaining game from a neutral perspective and a good chance of returns for attacking FPL assets. Arsenal, as you might imagine, are the much better attacking side on paper, and they're the only team in the league to maintain a shot accuracy of over 50% so far this season. But there is a serious risk of rotation, with Aubameyang, Lacazette, Mkhitaryan, Ozil, Ramsey and Iwobi making 6 players vying for 4 available starting places in the current formation being used. With this in mind, it's hard enough to predict who will play, never mind who's going to score the points on the weekend. Refereeing the game is Lee Probert, who has shown 2 red cards and given 3 penalties in just 2 games this season. Even more interesting is that both these games finished 2-2 and all 3 penalties were awarded to the home side. Not the best news for Arsenal and their defence then, who have picked up the 3rd most yellow cards so far this season and have struggled defending against counter-attacks. Could we see Newcastle awarded a dramatic penalty? The stats certainly suggest it could happen. In fact, in Probert's last 11 combined Premier League and Championship matches, he's given 8 penalties, an average of 0.7 per game. I'm sure you'd agree that's quite a lot. The only caveat is that Probert might have been told to calm it down a little bit, because that is quite a lot of penalties and reds in just the 2 games so far. Next up, we'll take a quick look at the team as we go into Game Week 5. A couple of transfers have been made and we've taken a 4-point hit this week. Following his return of 0 against Cardiff, the massively disappointing Hector Bellerin makes way for Marcos Alonso in defence, while Ryan Fraser comes in for Bernardo Silva in midfield in order to fund the upgrade to Alonso. Obviously I needed to get Alonso, he's performing fantastically well, great returns every single week and his ownership's only going up and up, so I felt like I was getting left behind there, had to make that move. I made the transfer earlier in the international break, not something that I usually do or would advise, and it's unfortunate that Fraser's picked up a knock there, but that is the risk you run with early transfers. I wanted to get in kind of early because I was a bit worried that Alonso's price was going to rise even more, but yeah, I'm still happy with the move as I did desperately need to get Alonso in. I still think Fraser's going to be a good option for me over the next few weeks, providing he only misses the 1 game. Wan-Bissaka, he's likely to come off the bench for me if Fraser misses out as expected, and he's got a decent fixture against Huddersfield this week, so yeah, I'm feeling okay about it. The rest of the team is unchanged. Sergio Aguero, he's going to keep the captaincy this week for City's home game against Fulham. As mentioned earlier in the video, the stats suggest that Fulham are going to really struggle to cope with City's attacking prowess, and hopefully that can lead to a decent points haul for the Argentinian striker. So there we go. Remember to let me know in the comments what you think of highlighting the key fixtures, or if you preferred the previous videos where the focus was more on highlighting individual players. If you did like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to keep up with what I'm doing here at the FPL Centre, and best of luck in Game Week 5 guys. Thanks for watching.